How does one lose their humanity? Now, I know what you're thinking, my friend. This kind of seems more like a very story only question. After all, it's probably only brought up when there's been like a monster invention and someone is worried about changing into something they can't control or basically a monster, pretty much. But, or maybe they're out in the wilderness and about to enact Lord of the Flies mindsets. It's not really one we think would come up in our everyday lives or when businesses as usual. Yet, maybe by asking why losing humanity is such a concern in those stories, we can see a bit about how it actually can very easily slip away in real life as well. Because the thing is, mostly when losing humanity is brought up, it's, well, again, we have to ask that question, what is humanity? And when it's brought up, it's about that compassion, that reason, that morality. It's not about cruelty or hedonism or whatever else. It's about love, joy, empathy, those kinds of things, not like the hatred or whatever. Again, we may use all of the humanity when something bad happens, but again, when we talked about the humanity they want to keep, it's these good, positive things. It's the best part of us. Now, in a way, it makes me think of, well, from my Christian worldview, it's reminding me of the image bearers, where we all have created the image of God. And even in our fallen world, that image is still there, even if it has been covered up a bit. It's like why we want to see things made right. We have that innate desire to see things made right, to see things made be dealt trivially, that sense of fairness. And we all have that, even if it's been seared or turned upside down or whatever. It's something that we just almost innately have. And so it's those traits that we have innately as image bearers that I think are the things that really make us that humanity that is wanting to be kept. But how does one lose their humanity? Now, this can work for story writing as well, but I think there are three main ways to watch out for that kind of flow from one to another. The first is what we do to ourselves. And I'm talking about those little acts of hypocrisy and vice that we allow to linger and we think really don't matter, but they end up staining the image over time. For example, we can think of basically how eating one tuptate is not the end of the world, but if all you ever do is eat tuptates, then you aren't giving your body the right stuff to basically build back healthy and strong, and especially if you aren't working off what you're eating in a sense. So it's not really a sustainable, healthy lifestyle unless you have a different way of making tuptates than I know of. But it's something to really think about there. What do we do that adds up over time? And again, even if we lie to ourselves, we kind of know when we are lying to ourselves. We can't really get away from that, or at least our body sometimes knows when we are actually telling lies, when something is incongruent. So it's something to be aware of. But the second one is related to that, and that's believing lies about ourselves. Now, these can be the lies we tell ourselves, whether like stuff like being not good enough or whatever, that we've let doubt and fear creep in, and those are the things we start to believe. But it also can come from others, whether intentional, because some people can be mean and cruel and vindictive, but sometimes they may not actually be intentional at all. They may just be turns of phrase that we took the wrong way, or they may be someone speaking out of hurt that they would never say otherwise. But either way, just by believing the lies, we forget who we are. We are forgetting the image we bear and what that means, who we are meant to be. Lastly, I think the most insidious and easy way to lose humanity is by ignoring and dismissing the humanity in others. In story form, this often comes in as the body count is starting to rise. The vampires need to feed, the werewolf is going on a rampage, and people are starting to enact that survival of the fittest and so forth, and treating those weaker than them as mere pawns or whatever. Yet, in real life, it's much more subtle because it begins with something that we do almost innately, and that's the pit on the pedestal, where if we see someone better or believe ourselves better, we put them on a pedestal. And if we see someone we consider worse. And again, it may be we like this person, so we raise them up. We don't like this person, we try to lower them as much as possible. And again, we can place ourselves in one place or another. But then it's to know that we almost do this innately. We don't really think about it. But the key thing is when we do think about it, or at least in that process, what happens to those we have deemed less than? Doesn't by looking down at them, don't they lose something from that point of view? And I think that dismissing or ignoring the humanity in others is probably the quickest way for someone to lose it, whether it's by reducing people to told math. Now, that can be an interesting thing where someone is using it to cope with having to make really hard decisions, and so they're actually trying not to remind themselves of the humanity that they are dealing with, so they have to actually focus on that. That can be actually a very interesting story. But again, it's like, what happens when that becomes the mindset of just in general, and that's how you treat everyone and everything, is just that toldest calculations. Or maybe it's where everyone who doesn't agree with a certain opinion is now an enemy or whatever, and everything is just that back and forth, that those tribal lines are being drawn, and that's just the mindset where if you want with me, you're the enemy, and so forth. And that's just like the mindset that is operated in, and where we don't see humans, we see enemies, and so forth. Or maybe there's even just this belief in being superior, and some people have that sense of they are like the enlightened ones, that even if something hadn't worked 1,000 times before, they will do it the right way because they are so smart and intelligent and enlightened beyond anything anyone else has ever even seen. And so it's just like, how do they see other people when they have that mindset of being so superior? Don't they see that basically, isn't it basically that mindset of the kind of haughty person looking down upon the rabble? Isn't that kind of like the mindset we always think of when someone believes they are superior? But the thing is, the more someone attempts to cut away at the humanity of someone else, the more they actually cut away at their own. They start to lose that. They start to lose that compassion, that reason, that morality, that empathy, and so forth. All those traits we so admire and so forth and consider like the best parts of ourselves are what is lost when we start to remove the human from those we interact with. And in essence, the best way for a character or ourselves to maintain our humanity is to remind ourselves not only of the humanity in ourselves, but also of others. The reminder of who we actually are, who we are. And again, that trying to create a monster who is tragically trying to figure out ways not to harm people, it can make them seem much more human than someone who's just trigger happy all the time and doing whatever they want, and so forth. So it just creates that interesting dichotomy of where's the focus on keeping the humanity, or has it already gone out the window? So those are just kind of thoughts I wanted to share or think about both for stories in real life. But anyway, let me know yours in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, you can like and share it so others may enjoy as well. Anyway, I'm Jonah, and you've been watching Lions Made Media, where we celebrate stories and lessons of them. Thank you for listening to my musings. Talk to you later, and have a great rest of your day.